the most unusual train crossing maybe in Japan, also not hyperbole.
一旦降りて待ってください。
キャンセル OK です。
One of the most hard luck stories I've ever heard. Good morning, I'm still Jeremy and I'm here in the city of Kuwana, Japan, in Mie Prefecture. And in my last video, I rode a train line called the Sangi Line on the Sangi Railway on the south banks of the Inabe River. Today I'm riding another train line almost parallel on the north banks of the Inabe River, also the Sangi Railway. It's called the Hokusei Line, and it's one of Japan's most unusual train lines, and at least this time, that's not hyperbole. So to understand this, we need to talk about train gauges. The gauge is the distance between the two rails. This right here, this little walkway across these tracks, is the most unusual train crossing maybe in Japan, also not hyperbole. This is actually where three train lines, three unrelated train companies cross right here. So look at the width of the tracks as I go by. So these two right here, these are the lines of the Kintetsu Railway. This is how I arrived. They're pretty wide. This is the wide version of Japan Rails. These are 1,435 millimeters. This is for trains that are big and fast, like a lot of Kintetsu lines use it. All the Shinkansen lines in Japan use this gauge. Over here is the JR tracks for Kuwana. This is the Kansai line. These are a little bit narrower. This is 1,067 millimeters. Most trains in Japan are this gauge. Pretty much all JR trains across Japan are lots of private railways. So all trains pretty much are one of these two gauges. But the thing is, over here is the Sangi Railway, the Hokusei line. Look how ridiculously narrow this is. 762 millimeters across, almost half what the Kintetsu line was. This is one of 4 Japan narrow gauge railways, and that's what I'm riding today. The 4 remaining 762 millimeter gauge train lines that still carry passengers in Japan belong to 3 railways: the Kurobe Gorge Railway in Toyama Prefecture, the 2 lines of the Yokkaichi Asunaro Railway in Mie Prefecture, which I rode a few months ago, and the one I'm riding today, the Hokusei line on the Sangi Railway, also in Mie. The Hokusei line is the longest of the 4 at 20.4 kilometers and has the most stations, 13. Okay, I see the train sitting there. That's going to be my train on the Hokusei line. It leaves in about 18 minutes. It is a very narrow train, of course, for a narrow train line. Okay, here's the entrance to the Sangi Railway part of Kuwana. The JR and Kintetsu line stations are both called Kuwana because the city here is called Kuwana. This Sangi line is actually called Nishi Kuwana. This building is a little bit east of the other stations, and Nishi Kuwana means West Kuwana. Okay, my train is leaving. What happened? What did I do? What happened? Why is my train leaving? Okay, no worry. That was a different train. Now, hopefully I can buy a pass. すいません。北西線の1日フリー切符ありますか？
あります。
はい。今日は一つください。
IC カードはお持ちです。
現金。
今はもう IC カードしか載せれないんですわ。1日券。IC カード。
IC カードある？
このカードがないと1日券は。
ある。OK。これ OK。これにフリーパスの OK。
紙ありません？
紙はない。今ない。
そっか。
これにインプットさせますんで。
なるほど。
OK。はい。
それとこちら3議線乗れなくて、
はい。
だけなんですけどもよろしいです？
はい。OK。
北西線オンリーね。
そう。
はい。OK。
ありがとう。
はい、ありがとうございます。
1200円ですね。
はい。
現金でいただけます、1200円。
うんそう現金で
はい。1時間はこちらの方へ情報は載りませんので、こちらの方で乗り降りしていただけます。はい、
はい
ありがとうございます。
はいありがとう
これでこんな感じ。
あすみませんあメガネ
ごめん、そうですそうです。
あ今できない
今タッチノータッチ。でワンアワー。
ああなるほど
までタッチオッケー。はい
はい
サンキュー。今タッチ
今
戻って
ありがとう
はいサンキューありがとう。
It's kind of confusing. I asked for the free pass just like I got on the other line. On the other line, I just paid 1,200 yen in cash and they gave me a little piece of paper, or like a card, and I just showed that to the drivers and stuff all day. Here, they said there's no paper card. You have to put it on your prepaid card. I have a prepaid card, but that took some explaining. Another guy had to come over and explain it to me, and then so he spent forever on the computer doing something. I gave him my card, and hey, my train is here. It leaves in about 8 minutes. Like I can't use the card for an hour. It takes an hour for the, so they gave me some papers to show somebody at some point, I guess, I don't know. So for an hour it doesn't work, but it does where they let me through anyway. Let's get on the train. So anyway, here it is in the distinctive yellow of the Sangi Railway. Look at the outside before we go in. 3 little cars. Flat front. They do not need aerodynamic capabilities here because the maximum speed of this line is 45 kilometers per hour. My first train today is a mixed and matched set of 3 cars. This lead car here was built in 1977. The middle car is the oldest, from 1954. And the rear car, which will be the front car on the way back here later, is from 1961. The facilities on board are worn and rattling, and the signs may be fading, but it all works surprisingly well for a train whose oldest car dates back nearly to World War II. It is noticeably narrower. On normal trains, you can stretch out a little bit your legs, not a whole lot because you're in the aisle, but here you can't at all. Tuck your legs up under you, and you're still knocking knees with the next people, in a manner of speaking.
この電車は当院止まりです。大泉、ソファラ、大田、阿劇の各駅には参りません。大泉、ソファラ、大田、阿劇の各駅へお越しのお客様は、恐れ入りますが、駅待合室で次の電車までお待ち合わせを願います。
He's saying that this train only goes as far as Toin, which is like partway down the line. So there are no express trains. All trains are local, stop at every station on their route, but not all trains go the whole line. Another little oddity of this line is that the Kintetsu and JR lines both basically go north-south. We're cutting off to go to the west, but we're on the east side of those lines. So the first thing we do is we cross over them on a super cool bridge. Okay, as the train totters off down the line. I'm at Umamichi Station, the very next station, because this is the least used station on the whole line. And I am going to wander the area. I think I'm going to go up there because there's like a castle ruins up there. And then catch the next train, continuing on. I was told not to touch my IC card. Can I just wander through? Okay. So while I'm walking, a little information about the Hokusei line. It began in 1914 as a separate company called the Hokusei Railway. It was always narrow gauge. Konnichiwa. Is this where I go? Oh, here we go. Yada ruins of a castle, down and to the right. In 1944, during World War II, the local governments decided that there were too many railways, a motley collection of railways, and they wanted to consolidate them into a company called Mie Kotsu. And everybody was cool with it, except the Hokusei Railway. They didn't want any part of it because they figured that they were actually making more money than these other railways. And if they all joined, then that railway would be making less money. So they wanted to stay apart from it. So a deal was cut up these stairs. A deal was cut to include them in the new Mie Kotsu group, but give them kind of a special stocks for their, or special whatever, special kind of shares that paid out more. So they were able to keep more of their money. From up here you can see the station. It's my kind of castle. So to continue with the story, in 1944 the train line was part of Mie Kotsu. And after the war, another train company started being in this area called Kintetsu. They still today have a big network of trains between the Nagoya and Nara and Osaka area. So by the 60s, the Mie Kotsu and the Kintetsu networks realized that they both had a bunch of kind of overlapping trains and buses, and they're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. We're doubling up service in some areas and stuff. So they wanted to untangle it all. So they reshuffled a bunch of stuff. The upshot of all that for this line is that the Hokusei line became part of the Kintetsu network, no longer Mie Kotsu. And that's the way it was for many, many decades. Until the year 2000, Kintetsu announced this line is too slow, the trains are too old, it's not worth upkeeping anymore, so we're going to cancel it. We're going to close the line down, and we'll replace it with a bus system for the communities along it. But the Hokusei line's going away. They had a date, said this is the date of the closure, but the communities along the line, they're like, well, no, we want the train. We don't want a bus service, we want the train. So at the very last minute, right before the closure, a deal was reached where the communities along the line would get some money together. They would buy all the land of the railway, the line, from Kintetsu, and Kintetsu would give the tracks and the trains and the stations to the Sangi Railway for free. The Sangi, for its whole history, had only been the one line south of the river. So that's how it is. It's very unusual in Japan where the communities would own the land, but the railway owns the tracks. But that's how it is, and it seems to be working all right. They immediately started refurbishing the stations and stuff, so it's actually a nice, normal, good, viable line now. Still narrow gauge though, there's nothing they can do about that. My second train has 4 cars dating from the same era, 1954 to 1977. I just stay in this final car, final of the 4 cars, the backmost car, because there's nobody else in it.
お出口は右側です。扉にご注意ください。
Okay, I'm going to ask about, did I use my IC card correctly? How do I ask? すいません。すいません。今日、ちょっとわかりません、これ。のある。でも、1時間
1時間。
のわからない。
wait。
はい。
キャンセル OK です。
OK ですか。はい、すみません、ありがとうございます。だから今から今日一日はこれで P する？
何時ぐらいに買っていただいた
？8時半ぐらい。
8時半ぐらい。ほんならもう9時5時1時間以上経ってますので。
これは普通で。
普通に。
ありがとうございます。はい、すみません。Okay, my next train is 10:19. Okay, he had to cancel the tap of my card where I just got on the last station, but he said it was all okay now. From now on, I can just tap in as normal because the hour has elapsed. Really don't understand that whole system, but I got off here at Hoshikawa Station because I want to see it. And here it is. Awesome, huh? It's like a candy shop or a pachinko parlor or something. Hoshikawa Station has one of the most hard luck stories I think I've ever heard about anything. I'll never remember it all, so I'm gonna look at my notes here. So this station, it opened in 1914, same as the rest of the line, most of the rest of the line. But 2 years later, in 1916, they closed it because there hadn't been enough room to add a platform, and so it was very much of a hassle for people to get on it, so they just shut the station down. And it was shut down for several years until 11 years later, 1927, they reopened it, but as freight only. Believe it or not, this line used to have freight until the 60s. And then in 1932, they let passengers start using the station again, so it was back. But then, 12 years after that, in 1944, they shut it down again. They said, it just wasn't working, forget it. And that was how it was until 1964. They reopened it. I said, let's try again. Come on, Hoshikawa, let's try again. And it lasted 5 years and they shut it down. And it looked like that was going to be it. That was the final death knell. Finally, it wasn't working out. Until when Kintetsu gave this railway and gave all the stuff to the Sangi Railway, Sangi said, let's try Hoshikawa again. So they reopened it in 2005. That's when they built this very unusual and awesome station. Hoshikawa, the kanji, means the river of stars. And the ironic twist in the tale is that now, on this train line, the whole Hokusei line, the first station where I got on, Nishikuwana, that's by far the most used station on an average day. This is number 2. Hoshikawa is number 2, the second most used station on the whole line. So it just goes to show you what the power of a good idea is. Obviously the station wants to be here and people want to use it. I don't know why it kept getting shut down. If you're ever in this area and you want to see it, come here while you can, because who knows what's going to happen in the future. My next train is another 3-car set, and the oldest average age so far. The lead car is from 1977, and both rear cars are from 1954. In fact, the rearmost car was manufactured in April 1954 specifically. It's the oldest car in use on the entire Hokusei line by a few months. I'm going to be riding this train, about 20 minutes because I'm going to get off at one of the 2 stations that exists in the plucky and stubborn little town of Toin. On this plucky and stubborn little train, this is the most stubborn train line I think I've ever ridden on. Uh-oh.
車両チェンジするんで、
あ
一旦降りて待ってください。
はいはい。大泉はいつ？
大泉のあの電車、これ下がっていったら、あの電車がこっち来ます。
はい、ありがとう。
それに乗ってください。
はい。Okay, everybody got off here at Toin. I wasn't expecting to do that. Everybody but me got off. The driver ran through and said, "Get off." And I said, "What?" He said, "You see this train up here? It's going to go and replace this one." So I told him where I wanted to go, and he said, yeah, get on that train when it comes. I don't know what this means for my schedule, but apparently changing to a new train, I'm not sure why. This 3-car train is a much younger upstart. 2 cars from 1977 and the middle one from 1961. I'm here at Oizumi Station. If you ever saw the video for Beat It by Michael Jackson, so these the kids over here with the yellow hats and their teachers or whoever are leading them this way. What do you see over there? Right there where my finger is. Another group of kids with yellow hats coming the other way. They're gonna meet about there and there's gonna be a rumble. The fight is in their eyes and their words are really clear. Anyway, the reason I got off here is because this is the second of the 2 stations. The last one, Toin, of course, was the other one, of stations that are in the town of Toin. If you saw my last video on the Sangi line, you'll maybe remember that the rails went through a little corner of Toin town, but this line goes right through the heart of the town. The other thing is, I was led to believe by the internet that here in April, there were a bunch of purple flowers, blue flowers here, and all I see is mud. Now I might see some down there. Maybe I can go down there and get some flowers down there. Toin is another one of those stubborn elements of this train line. It used to be part of 5 towns in this area. Toin was one of 5. And in 2003, the other 4 towns all banded together to form the city of Inabe. So Inabe only became a city in 2003. Before that was just 4 towns. Toin decided not to join that, so it stayed its own self. Toin wants no part of whatever you're a part of. It's not a joiner, a rugged individualist. I didn't plan it this way, but I just happened to be here right at peak season for both the blue and the yellow flowers on a bright and sunny day. It's pretty much the Hokusei line at its very best moment. Hey, I hear my train a-coming. No sign of either of the gangs. I shudder to think what they subjected each other to. Right.これは北西の一日振り。
一日振り券やね。
あ、
大泉で乗られたんやね。オッケーですね。これなんでやろ。ちょっとごめんね。
はい。あ、いいですか。すみません、ありがとう。Okay, I've gotten off here at Sohara Station. I have a few minutes to walk a couple kilometers over to a place where there are two bridges, two very old bridges that are almost unique in Japan, and the train goes over both of them. Okay, here we are. Nejiri Bridge and Megane Bridge. Nejiri means twisted, Megane means eyeglasses. So the Twisted Bridge and the Eyeglasses Bridge are down here. Twisted Bridge, Eyeglasses Bridge. Here. Down here. Right where the shadow of my finger is, right there, is a snake's tail. See? Little Japanese snake. Hello, little snake. Where are you going? Okay, here it is. The Nejiri Bridge, the Twisted Bridge. And you see why it's called twisted, because it goes at an angle that way and the hole was cut this way. So it's kind of this corkscrew shape underneath. So this was not a necessarily rare type of bridge when it was first built, but it wasn't that common, and almost all of them, the vast majority, do not exist anymore. Railway companies were heavily induced to stop using them and modernize, and the Hokusei line never did. They kept it and they keep it still. Stubborn. What a sight. What a sight. You have to come out here to the middle of nowhere to find it. I thought there might be other train photographers here when I got here, but there's nobody in sight. And this sign over here tells me it's Megane Bashi time. The Eyeglasses Bridge, because it's shaped like eyeglasses. Right there, you can see it from here. The Megane Bridge, very unusual for a train to be going over something like this in Japan. Because by the time that trains really started becoming a thing, bridge technology had moved on, so there just aren't many left. And of the ones that are left, almost none of them actually still have trains going over them. Okay, those are the trains passing over the amazing pair of bridges here. And the next trains are in an hour, so I'm done out here. The next train that goes by this way, I'm actually going to be on it. I'm walking back to the station I got off at, which was Sohara. Okay, I'm here at Ageki Station, the final station of the line. The platform sign of the station is a laminated piece of paper with thumbtacks. I'm going to wander around this area a little bit here in Ageki. My train, probably the same train I arrived on, I'm going to take that back to the beginning. That's in like 25 minutes. So I'll look at a very quiet area here. This super narrow gauge railway, not railway, little line here is part of the Narrow Gauge Railway Museum up there. And they actually have little tiny trains you can take and ride them around this loop. I've seen pictures and I've seen video online. Unfortunately, it's only open on Sundays. Today is not a Sunday. That would have been a great way to end this ride, but that's how it goes. This is the last existing car from the 6 that were built in 1931, when the original Hokusei Railway was extended to this station. It was transferred from this line to what's now the Yokkaichi Asunaru Railway in 1978, where it finally retired in 1983. The sign mentions the classic wooden interior. No entry, unfortunately. Shame I can't see inside. Here's one more bit of nugget of wisdom here on the platform. Japan's westernmost narrow gauge station. How about a little respect? How about a nicer sign? Okay, let's check the checklist one last time. Abandoned bicycle, interesting statue or figurine, motor scooter, obachan with cart, notable bird, cartoon drawing on sign, graffiti, hair salon, tree cut into circles, car elevator, beer vending machine. Okay, that's it. Thank you for riding on the Hokusei line with me to the westernmost narrow gauge train station in all of Japan. So I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. I'm going to throw in 100 coin, 100 yen. The full extended version of this video is over an hour long and ad-free. It includes the full story of my day exploring the Hokusei line, a look at each station as we stopped, the Yada Castle site. Let me just get some Uber Eats delivered. Much more from the neighborhoods around the stations I saw. That's the view you came to Hoshikawa for. The full story and more views of trains passing over the bridges, a mysterious little shrine full of naval war equipment, the full checklist, and lots more details from the day. Patreon supporters get instant access to it and dozens of other exclusive videos not available publicly, all ad-free. Support directly helps me make new videos. Details at patreon.com/T1DWanderer. Special thanks this week in random order to Thomas G. Ritchie, Samantha, Will Phillips, Ray Nichols, David Richley, Russell Davis, and Matt Kane. Thanks for wandering around the narrow-gauge Hokusei line with me. Everywhere is worth exploring.